What's up, guys? Welcome back. Bear down. We'll have a little bit of free talk fun tonight. Let me get situated here. Have a little bit of fun. You guys are starting to fill in the comments section. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Bob Killen, Theodore Serbin, Andrew Vin, 23, Florida Bears fan, Illinois boy, Nick Sartini, Hitman. Appreciate all you guys tuning in. We're going to have a little bit of a different format tonight. Alex is my name-o. How's it going, Adam? It's going pretty good. I'm at the end of my work day. Try to find time through the workday to update this stuff and then, come and talk to you guys. So I'm kind of honestly today I'm a little bit burned out. I'm a little bit burned out, but it actually gives me a little rejuvenation to come and speak with you guys, to come and hang out with you guys for a little bit at the end of my day. So hopefully this does the same thing for you guys. We're getting there. I'm ready for the draft, guys. At this point, I'm kind of toast. I'm burned out. I'm burned out from all the pre-draft stuff this year. I just need the draft to get here. I need to see how this team's going to come together and form and fill out and get me my Bears football back. It's about time. So appreciate you guys tuning in. Here's the new there's the new microphone. I mentioned it last time. I think it gives a little more dynamic. We're improving. Next up, I gotta replace this whole system and make it. We're gonna improve the studio. We're gonna change the camera. We're gonna change the change the computer. We're gonna keep upgrading as we get this thing going along. More people are filling in. We're gonna give it time. I'm gonna do something a little bit different tonight. I am gonna do
really good place.
Pause that. We're gonna. You have to be really careful how you share things. For those who didn't see today, from the owners' meetings in Tampa today, in Florida, both Ryan Poles and Ben Johnson spoke. And this is kind of like the combine for players. This is the last time you're going to get a real good feel for what the owner, what the coaches, what the GM are saying before we get to the draft. So I am going to share it. I'm going to pause it. I'm going to break it down with you guys. I've already listened to it 3 times. If that's not interesting, I'm not opposed to you. I'm not going to be butthurt if you guys walk away and step away from it. But there's a lot to garner from this. And I think it gives you a really clear perspective with where the Bears are, with where they're headed, and what's going on with this team. So we'll get into that. We'll get into my picks for where I sit right now, headed towards the draft, what I would like the Bears to do, what I think they'll do, and where we're headed. We are taking a kicker at number 10. Reese, that might be the most solid, down-to-earth, realistic take that I've seen on April's Fool's Day ever. So Prometheus, welcome in. Bears Junkie 55 Hall of Fame, Brian Halterman, Skeletor, D. Levine. Appreciate that. That was Carl who created the intro song. Just he didn't require much compensation either. I appreciate Carl for doing that. That was good. I know we're 3 weeks and 2 days away, guys. We're there. Da Bears, BJ Jameson, Da Bears. So I did buy more cards because I'm a fool. Bought more cards. I bought the Panini Prism. Carl and I did those at the same time. He already did it. You guys didn't see that. He did an opening. I don't want this channel to become like a card opening channel. So I did it on my own. I also opened 3 more boxes of Score Topps Chrome because I wanted to get that Caleb card. And guys, I have bad news. Good news for someone out there. Bad news for me. The Caleb card has been found. It has been found. Someone has taken ownership of the Caleb card. The Caleb card where he signs Green Bay sucks. Somebody has it. So $25,000 card at this point, probably worth more if he hangs on to it. So Andrew Vin 23 says, my takeaway is not going O-line, and we taking Warren, baby, if he falls, please. Yeah, I can see why you're saying that. There's a lot to garner from that. And if you didn't hear Ben Johnson yesterday, that's not going to be in what we share today. Ben Johnson yesterday, he talked about how he sees a lot of similarities with Tyler Warren and what they saw in Jahmyr Gibbs. Remember, Jahmyr Gibbs wasn't just about running back. They traded out. Detroit traded out of having the best running back in the class. They could have had Bijan Robinson. He was taken at 7. Detroit had 6. They traded back, and then they took Jahmyr Gibbs ahead of where everybody says he should have gone because they saw him as an ultimate weapon, as a tool, not just a running back. Well, his comments yesterday were, Tyler Warren is that same type of guy. You can line him up anywhere. And when Dennis Allen was talking about Tyler Warren as they were watching film together on these top 30 guys, Dennis Allen said how hard it would be to scheme against this guy, to be able to prepare and plan to play against Tyler Warren. And that has nothing to do with how they view Cole Kmet. Does not mean Cole Kmet's bad. You have a ton of 12 personnel sets, and Cole Kmet is going to see a ton of action this year. He's going to be brought back to light. So I do got to share real quick, though. Said the card opening. I got to share what happened, though. I just expect not to get any good cards when I open. So this is the first card that was good that I opened, and I freaking love this card. I love Rome Odunze. He's one of my favorites. It's a common rookie card, so I got that one. And then I got Kool-Aid McKinstry, who I'm not a huge fan of, but I got a Kool-Aid McKinstry, like really refractive, prismatic. Thought that was pretty cool. Nico Collins Prism Break. That was pretty cool. I know there's a little light there. I apologize for the shine. Got a CJ Stroud Fireworks. Pretty freaking sweet. And then my very last pack. The very last one where I'm feeling like I don't get any great cards. Okay, I got a Rome card. Fine. And this is not to rub it in Shorty's face. I'm not trying to rub anything in Shorty's face, because if you guys watch BCP, Shorty's been buying like seriously like over 1,000 cards to break his own Caleb Williams open. And I got an emergent glass refractive green Caleb Williams rookie card. Freak yeah. When I opened that, I was freaking stoked. That's when I was wishing I did do this on a break, when I did this on an open, but I didn't. And I opened this, and I freaking am very excited. One of my favorite cards now. Emergent rookie card, Caleb Williams. Boom. Very excited about it. So, all right, let's get into this. Let's get into the meat and potatoes. Have a little bit of fun tonight. I don't know how long this will take. Maybe crack dice. Yeah, that's what it's called, crack dice. So let's get into some meat and potatoes here. Go over this team. Go over some of that interview. 3 weeks to the draft. My wish list. I'll get to my wish list at the end of this. But spoiler, right on the front page, you're going to see a little bit of what I want here. Let's get so here's a little bit of the schedule coming up, just so everybody knows what's going on. Right now, the NFL owners meeting is happening. It's ending right now. And then we'll get into Halas Hall. And over the next 2 weeks, you see here, I don't have my pointer because I'm using StreamYard. So I apologize, I don't have the pointer, but I'll just try to be as descriptive as I can. Top 30 visits will be going on tomorrow is when they will start. They'll get back to Halas Hall. They'll have from tomorrow through the 16th to do top 30 visits. So that'll be 14 days, 2 weeks in there. And you'll hear about some every single day. They've got these lined up. We just don't know who all of them are yet. We've got our hints. We've got our inclinations. We've got some clues. But there was a new one that was announced today or earlier. And that's the one I did my video on earlier today. For those who did not see it, for Dylan Fairchild, guard out of Georgia. So you can go back and check that out after this. If you haven't seen it yet, the top 30 visit will be for him tomorrow. And then, you'll see those ones that we've already heard announced. You'll see them filtering in as well. So from tomorrow through the 16th, that's when those are going to happen. On April 7th, Ben Johnson will have a chance to go with the team to be able to meet with them for their offseason workouts. That's for any new head coach. They get to meet with the team on April 7th, and that's when the Bears will be in-house. They asked Ben Johnson about it. We'll get to that, and he was able to address that, and doesn't have his full speech prepared yet, but he's going to be there with the team, basically telling them last year was last year. Last year's in the past. We move forward. This is how we're going to do it. Boom. All right, I'm just going to get to some of these so I don't ignore the chat like always. Adam, do you think the Bears will aim to get 4 starters out of our first 4 picks, or can you see us going to develop developmental players like Karan due to our lack of glaring needs? Bear down from the UK. Appreciate the question, John. We'll get to some of that in the comments here from the owners meeting, but they do not plan to take starters with all 4. And you can't take starters with all 4 because our starters are basically mostly all set, including DeAndre Swift is a starter. He'll rotate with whoever we select. We do need a powerhouse running back. But even then, they talked about how it would be nice to take some of these guys and you don't always have to start them day one. You can develop them. So they said that in the meetings today. We'll get to the interview. Those who haven't heard it, this will be a chat opportunity for me to break it down and to go over it with you guys. Those who have heard it already, might not be your cup of tea today, but great question. All right, and then restricted free agency deadline ends on the 18th. That's not going to affect the Bears much anymore. We've already decided on those guys for us. And then on the 23rd, a week after the 16th, any form of contact is then done. So after the 16th, they can still make Zoom calls. They can make phone. They can go out to other places and go to workouts that players put on themselves. They can go out and work them out at their home facility. They just can't bring them into Hallis Hall for a top 30 visit. So those things end on the 23rd. No more contact after the 23rd, not even phone calls, not even televisits, nothing. That's all done. Then on the 24th is the draft. We will be live for the draft here for the entire first round, for the second round, on and on and on. And then rookie minicamp then begins the week after the draft. And right after the draft, though, we're going to have undrafted free agency. We're going to be signing people. We got, after the draft is over, we'll have roughly 15 more spots to fill on the roster. So that's either going to be happening through current free agents that are left, through undrafted free agency. There will be multiple ways we can fill that. It won't be any big moves with salary cap. Salary cap is basically done at this point. So that's it for the upcoming roster, or for the upcoming schedule, where those things stand. And then the owners meeting, these are just some snippets. And then even Ryan Poles was on Sports Center today, for those who didn't catch that. So I'm going to bring up the actual owners meeting interview for Ryan Poles and Ben Johnson, because like I said, this is an opportunity for us to basically have the combine for players, have the combine for coaches and for GMs, where we get to hear their thoughts and hear, and I have to be careful. I can't show them talking, but if I leave me on here and then I put on screen, and then we stop it and break it down, there's some good stuff to garner for this. So let's go ahead. We're going to start with Ryan Poles, even though he was interviewed second, and then I'm going to go to Ben Johnson after that.
I feel like we're in a really good place. Was really happy on how free agency went. Was able to really attack some needs that our roster had to have to compete and be a good football team. So I've been happy about that process and thankful for the staff and the work from the coaches to execute at a high level, both with the trades and free agency. And then really been excited about the work that we've done preparing for the draft. We're kind of about to go down the home stretch. Scouts are going to come in town and really start to nail down the board. And we've taken some good trips just with the coaching staff. We went down to Austin, went to Columbus, and had a good time meeting with the players, digging a little bit deeper, getting them on the board, understanding what they know, what they might struggle with, and just have a better perspective on the guys that we're going to be looking at in the draft. So, again, thankful for the work that everybody's done in that process. This coaching staff has been outstanding with their evaluations, the volume of evaluations that they've done, and really been impressed with their ability to evaluate as well. So all of that's coming together.
With that, I don't think the board is set. With the things they say in here, I don't think the Bears board is set. I don't think they've decided what they're going to do yet. So you'll hear some more
questions.
Ryan, you talked about the draft board kind of marrying up with needs for you this year. When you look at that collection of 4 picks on days 1 and day 2,
Mm-hmm.
what can you get done, and how much of it is sort of seeing those as a collection of picks as opposed to just 10 on its own and then trying to make that package work together?
Yeah, and that's when we get back, and that's why I'm excited to get back and get working on that part of it, because once we kind of clean up the board based on some things that have happened in pro days, when we got injury reports back from the combine, and really get the board back, now we can start piecing that together to kind of see what is the collection of guys that we can get in that space and how can they impact our football team. The beautiful thing of what we did in free agency, and we talked about this a few weeks ago, is I really believe we can look at the draft as a situation where we take best available, which is really important. I think it's really important for this draft too, because I think just the way it is, I think kind of the top blues, I think that's condensed pretty small early in one, and then there's a wide range of really good starter level players that are going to range from, probably single digits all the way into 50, 60, 70.
So there's a couple things here, and this is the 4th time I've listened to this now. I don't think they believe they're going to get in the blues. So we hear people talk about what the blue chip players are in this draft. I don't think he believes they're going to get a blue. So he'll mention in here draft trading down again. I really do think the trade down is heavy on his mind right now. You say, well, why would somebody else trade up then if they feel the same way? Well, there's a lot of teams that are really dependent on certain positions that might not need everything like the Bears do. Like we need a lot of well-rounded reserves, backup guys. Like we need a solid tight end too. We need a solid running back, which can be found anywhere in this draft. And Ben Johnson will get to that. We need a couple other, we need some depth. Other than that, we need some good rotational, like a solid, that could be a starter later, defensive tackle and defensive end. But it doesn't mean we have to find those right off the bat. And I love the defensive end class in the second round. I hope we don't go defensive end in the first round. You guys will get to that. So this question right here, Cat name it. Yeah, it'll definitely happen on draft day. We're not at a premium spot at number 1 where you would trade down before the draft. If it happens, it'll happen because the way the board falls. And maybe a team like Seattle, who really needs offensive line, and maybe they want the one they really want, and they feel like he won't make it to 18. Like a lot of places are projecting Tyler Booker to Seattle right now at 18. If Seattle really, really wants, someone like Armand Membu, who could easily be there at 10, and the Bears don't need a right side guard or a right side tackle, and the Seahawks really, really want Membu, that would be worth them trading up and giving up their first rounder swapping first rounds and giving up their second rounder this year. So very, very possible here. And so we'll get back to this. There's going to be a lot to dissect here, but I think it's very possible the Bears are looking to trade down. I don't think they think Tyler Warren, Ashton Genty, Abdul Carter, Mason Graham. I don't think they think any of those guys will be there.
So really trying to pair where the depth is and where you can get certain guys. And like I said, just the collection of those guys I think are going to be important in terms of moving the needle for us.
Are you learning that Ben's more passionate about this position as opposed to that position, or especially when it comes to offense and maybe looking at these elite weapons, as he would say?
Yeah, I think that's
probably
be
one of the
cool parts of our relationship right now. We see things similarly, especially on the offensive side of the ball. He has a creative mind on how he can use players. So when we're watching and there's guys that can do a lot of different things, and
man, that combined with what they talked about with Tyler Warren yesterday, I think they really want Tyler Warren. He wasn't my priority pick at 10, and it sounds like the Jets really want him too. So maybe the Jets are going to take Tyler Warren. They also need offensive line, so they could go Will Campbell if he falls at 7. I mean, there's so many freaking ways this draft board can fall. But I think the Bears really want Tyler Warren from the things he's saying there.
And it's kind of how I think too.
So a couple of years, I don't think anything they've said has indicated they want to trade up, especially in this draft where they feel like 39, 41, and 72, they reemphasize that so many times, are good starter quality players. I don't think they want to give up any draft capital. I think they're interested in acquiring some of that draft capital because now they've built through free agency. The last couple of years, that's how we've done it. We've built through free agency, very little in the draft. Starting quarterback, starting wide receiver. Other than that, and the year before, starting right tackle. Other than that, it's really been build through free agency for this team. And now, since you have those expensive free agency pieces, now it really sounds like they're looking to go, hey, we're going to start building through the draft. And there's a lot of really good quality, starter quality prospects between, 10 and 70. And that's how they phrase it, not me. I really kind of said it was between, there's really higher end prospects in my mind up till 15. And then 15 through 50, 60 would be, but they're saying between 10 and 70. So I'm really thinking he really wants this trade back. So we'll see.
It's like, how can we put the, opposing defense in a bind trying to figure out what we're trying to do. That's what, made me feel really good about Ben too, because I've felt that, playing against them. I can actually, without even talking, I can kind of feel his excitement with his body language on what guys are doing, how he can use it. You can kind of see him thinking through that. So that part's been really cool to work through.
Has a Kyler Gordon contract extension been put towards the back burner, or is it something that could still happen this offseason after all the money and cap space that's been used to this point?
Yeah, no, that'll still be a priority. For me, on our exit meetings at the end of last season, I told a lot of the guys in terms of future, if it was contracts or coming back, anything like that. The important thing is I got to get with our current and new, the new coaching staff, and kind of see how the different players fit based on what scheme we're going to be running. So we've been able to have those conversations, and I know Kyler is a guy that we want a part of this moving forward. So the time of that, I'm not sure how that all is going to work out, but that is a priority.
Ryan, in your first few drafts, your first round pick has been a player at a position where it's clear you need a starter at that position.
Here
you
you
kind
go.
of said your roster has you guys have a lot of guys who could be considered starters. How does that kind of change the way, and you talked about the flexibility when you're looking at guys at 10,
Mhm.
and you might have somebody that you feel good about in that spot.
Yeah.
How's that change? I mean, a good problem to have, I imagine. How does that kind of change the way that you're thinking about these things?
Yeah, you're looking at it multiple ways. One, it's like short-term, long-term thinking. Two, it's,
Short-term, long-term
there's
thinking.
certain positions, like the premium ones, where, it's not guaranteed you're going to be a spot to get one of those players. So if we end up with a surplus, then let's just figure it out after that. And
To me, that
compete,
really
and the
refers
best
to
guy
Josh
wins.
Simmons.
And if someone's got a young guy's got to wait, then he has to wait. Or other things can happen where the guys that are currently in those spots can get opportunities for other teams. So there's a lot of different options that can pop up, but we're kind of weighing all of those things and put it into the equation of how we're
You guys
gonna,
catch that spot right there? Listen to
or
this part.
other things can happen where the guys that are currently in those spots can get opportunities for other teams. So there's a lot of different options that can.
I missed that the first 3 times I listened to it. So if say we drafted Josh Simmons, say we trade down to 18 and we pick up Josh Simmons because he's just the best player available there. I'm not in favor of going offensive line first round at all. I don't like it. Say they pick him up and then he has to wait and sit behind both Karan Amagaji, because you'll hear Ryan Poles talk highly about Karan Amagaji and Braxton Jones. And then certain guys on the roster might be fit for other teams. Trade opportunity. I mean, I mentioned this once, but if they do that, it could equal Braxton Jones being traded midseason at the trade deadline. Offensive tackle always garners around the most, that in quarterbacks, the most trade value at the trade deadline, because you're going to be paying Braxton Jones 20-ish million a year if we extend him. So there's big opportunities here.
We're kind of weighing all of those things and put it into the equation of how we're going to handle the, really all the picks, but 10 especially.
How do you weigh that in terms of finding a franchise player like a left tackle there when Braxton's been doing this now going into year 4 but coming off the injury?
Yep.
And going into a contract year for himself? How do you view maybe going that route at 10, thinking ahead to the future too with what you currently?
Yeah, and then you throw, Karan in the mix, who, not only do I still think, highly of him, especially going back and just watching, the Washington game, there's a lot of signs of him being successful, especially the tackle position. But then he also went through a tough spot, which was, the way it was set up was unfortunate. Minnesota wasn't a great outing for him. So, but there's only a very small sample size there. I know that competition is going to, make the best of both those guys. So we're weighing that as well as just who's best available in the draft. So it's all part of it. It makes it a little complicated when now you're talking about kind of 3 deep in that space. But I think it makes us really ask tough questions when we're watching specifically like a left tackle. Like, is this guy going to make us better in year 1, year 2, year 3? How do we feel about our guys? Especially in the case where, Dan and Kyle and Declan really haven't.
Talking about them working with this offensive line group. So everybody being a little bit sharp on, and they'll talk about Braxton gaining some weight here in a second, but iron and sharpening iron. I love it. Hopefully Karan has taken this offseason really seriously. He's got the same issue as Braxton. He's got to develop that base a little bit more. But 36-inch arms, people are referring to the Eagles Super Bowl offensive tackles on both sides having 35+ inch arms. And then other people are saying, it doesn't matter. Look at the average. It's 33 inches, 34 inches. I think the Bears have a certain set where they want to go with like statistical data, and having those guys compete against each other, I think it's only going to sharpen them for sure.
Time with either one of their tackles. So there's a lot to work through, but I'm confident that when we sit down and kind of talk through it and look at the guys in this year's draft, and plus we've got to see how it plays out too. There could be, if we have 2-3 guys that we think are in that spot, they may not be there at 10 either. So we'll be ready for all the different situations that can pop up.
Kind of going off that.
So anything's on the table. There's a good question by D. Levine. What's our depth currently on the offensive line? Amagaji is not ready to step in if one of our tackles gets hurt and the rest aren't lighting the world on fire. Any rookie isn't going to be able to step in. I mean, that's just the facts of it. A rookie on his first year takes time on the offensive line to develop and be able to come up to speed. Very few rookies step in on year 1. It takes a blue chip guy to be an offensive lineman to step in and be able to play lightning, like to top of the top class. It takes a real, so Karan Amagaji probably will be better having 1 year of experience, having an off season, having, right now these guys are going through the combine and through all this stuff, through these drills. They don't even have an off season. they're going to get right back into camp. They're going to get into rookie camp. They're going to get into mini camp. They got no break. So a lot of people talk about how that year between the freshman year, rookie year, and second year is such an impactful one because they finally get that break. They can focus on what they got to improve. They can focus the whole offseason on how they need to improve. So don't cut Karan Amagaji out. There's a good opportunity for him this year, and I think he's going to come prepared.
With Caleb in place, any sense, I guess, this early where maybe some of these other quarterbacks might go this year? Is 10 like in play for a team moving up, or where do you guys project maybe the quarterback conversation to be in this draft, which would help you get a player falling?
Yeah, I'm not, for where we are right now, I'm not confident on exactly where, the first 9 picks are going to fall.
Yep.
But that's something that we'll look into, and we'll definitely weigh the option of, hey, if we can move back and collect, a certain pick in this range, could that be really beneficial for us as well? So yeah, that'll be in play.
It's been interesting to hear Ben talk about the importance of the passing game, specifically, or earlier today he was talking about the importance of EPA in the passing game and how that actually impacts wins and losses, and it being a better indicator than even turnovers now. How has that impacted your team's scouting in terms of like having the roster reflect that desire from him?
Yeah, I think if you're a well-rounded group and you have obviously the protection from the O-line, it all matches together. So, having an O-line, not only for protection, but also to establish a run game is only going to help you create explosives on the back end. Having the receivers, able to win in contested situations, run after catch. So to me, it's all tied together, and the more balanced we are, the more successful we can be, especially, getting into that space where, it does give you some indication of success, more than just like something simple like turnover. So we want to build a very well-rounded team that's capable of having explosives. We know that's going to help us win games. I think it's been a work in progress trying to get all of these things lined up over the years. And we have an opportunity to kind of solidify that, to be balanced, and kind of have everything we need to be successful on offense. And obviously we've
So this will be kind of the theme of Ryan Poles, having a balanced team, being able to have an opportunity to pick best player available. Whenever I see questions that pop up on the side, I'm going to want to address them just a little bit. So it's kind of a Q&A type session too. So Reese Reed, I really like this question. Who still needs a quarterback other than the Steelers? Steelers, I think, is the biggest one. And you hear about Ayahuasca Boy probably retiring more than, so Aaron Rodgers probably isn't going there. Tennessee could use one. I don't know if they're going to go first round. Cam Ward is probably their pick, probably. The Jets possibly need one, but they're all in on Justin Fields. They've given him full support. So maybe the Jets would pick one rather second, third round, fourth round, someone to compete, because Justin Fields is only on a 2-year contract. Two things can happen. Either Justin Fields doesn't become that bridge quarterback and he fails and he flops and it's over. Then they need someone as a backup, or Justin Fields takes off. They're going to have to re-sign him to a massive contract. So with that, you always want someone in the wings that can develop. And this is a year where you take a developmental quarterback. You got the New Orleans Saints who are sticking with Derek Carr, but Derek Carr is kind of on that Ryan Tannehill type of slope where you kind of need to replace him soon type of situation. You got the Browns and their situation. You've got, who am I missing? I know I'm missing someone. Saints, Browns, Vegas, but they traded for Geno Smith. I don't think they believe in Geno Smith, so I still think they want to add into the equation too for them. Obviously the Giants, but they've taken Russell Wilson, so that's kind of the same thing. Are they doing the bridge quarterback year where they'll look to 2026 draft? Yeah, you guys both said Giants at the same time there. So I don't know if the Giants will. I think they might be more inclined to take someone, say, second, third round type of thing too, where they can still draft high this year. That's kind of my view on it. So there's not, the thing is, a lot of these teams have going bridge quarterback. I'm bridged with a bridge quarterback. Jets, Giants, Raiders, where they don't have to take this one this year. So I would see the Steelers and the Titans probably being your primary ones. And then others, I mean, everybody else could probably go round 2 or 3 to get their bridge quarterback that you're looking for. So I don't know if anybody else has a huge dire need at the top of the draft, other than I think the Titans are done with Will Levis. They're ready to make him a backup. And Pittsburgh doesn't really have an option right now too. So anyways, almost done with Ryan Poles. Then we'll get into Ben Johnson.
Invested a lot on defense too. So I think it's a cool opportunity for us to take steps there.
What picture is Dennis Allen painting for you and what he is looking for?
Yeah, that's another thing I should probably have said in the opener. It's these coaches and their communication has been outstanding. He wants a very aggressive attacking defense, especially at the defensive line. Attacking
This is
the
interesting
man
to me.
in front of you, not so much playing laterally, two-gapping, or even penetrating in gaps. It's really just attacking the offensive lineman in front of you and
So this is given a good view of the defensive line Dennis Allen's going to bring, and he's going to talk about the defensive backs here in a minute. But not so many stunts, not so many blitzes. When we saw that with Dennis Allen, he didn't blitz as much. You might see more with Kyler Gordon, with outside linebacker, whoever replaces Jack Sanborn. You might see a few more stunts and blitzes out of there, but not so much on the front of the defensive line. They're going to look for big, powerful guys that can just push the pocket back and get into the quarterback and get at the quarterback. They specifically say into the quarterback's feet and trip them up. Man, that's why I think they're really high on Kenneth Grant. Sometimes when you don't hear a team talk about a certain player, that's when you feel like they're going for them. Like if Mason Graham failed to 10, oh my gosh, hallelujah. Praise, we're good. Like, woo. I do like Alfred Collins too. You guys will see he's on my picks. So Alfred Collins, if we don't get a defensive tackle early, is really one that I think we need to target in later. But they talk about man coverage here too. One big thing, I've been doing this all off season. A lot of you have pointed me out and said, when I have my charts up, why do you have Terrell Smith ahead of Tyreek Stevenson? This isn't just a week, a month. This has been all since January, when we learned that Dennis Allen was coming to this team. I put Terrell Smith ahead of Tyreek Stevenson. No disrespect to Tyreek Stevenson. I think they like Tyreek Stevenson. They'll talk about Tyreek Stevenson in here in a minute. But he said specifically, we're going to run a lot of man coverage. Terrell Smith is one of the best in the NFL, not just on the Bears, in the NFL at staying hip-to-hip man coverage. He is phenomenal at it. So I think he's going to get a true opportunity to start. I think Terrell Smith is going to get a chance.
Creating disruption in the run game and also to bubble back into the quarterback's feet to make it uncomfortable for the quarterback too. So that mentality is definitely going to be there. That's something we'll get done, and we have a lot, and we've done it, in free agency as well. Speed is another emphasis, both because of man coverage, but also just being able to get to the ball as fast as possible.
Be a lot of man.
Yeah.
Ben was saying
Lot of man.
that Brisker's been cleared. What do you expect from him? And as a practical matter, do you need to kind of have a 1B or some good depth behind him because you don't know whether concussions may pop up again?
Yeah. Yep. With Brisker, he's been cleared. He's fired up. He texts all the time about draft stuff, and
he tweets all the time.
He wants to win and he wants to be
safety.
successful. What's that?
No safety.
I'm guessing he likes the Penn State tight end.
Yeah. So he's. I expect him to be himself. He's going to play his style of football. I've talked about it before. Like even the last concussion that he had, it's unfortunate because I saw a guy doing it the way that he was supposed to protect his head. So I think that was kind of an outlier. And I think there's certain position, that safety position stuff, especially when you play a physical brand of football, which he does. So you're always going to want depth, really at any position, but it's definitely something that, we do have to consider.
Brian, there was so much talk last season and coming out of last season about the accountability piece to things. What does that need to look like going forward, and how will Ben enforce it? It sounds like there's confidence that his ability to get that will be something that he brings to the table.
Yeah, I think it's just being able to call out, the things that aren't up to standard right there in the moment, man to man. And sometimes it's in a group setting. Like, this is how we want it, and you address it immediately. So I think
I think they recognize some of the dysfunction that happened last year under Eberflus and some of the things that took place there leading up into Washington and how Washington happened. I think this is going to be a much more disciplined team this year. I think you're going to see a lot more accountability, and I think they're going to hit those things on the head. You won't necessarily hear them out in the public, but I think they're going to hit those things on the head a lot more professionally off the bat.
is something that Ben's going to be really good at. And we'll do that together across kind of all spaces in football. and it's something we've talked about a lot, and I feel confident that
Yeah, I think at some point, Stanley, I don't know if
talked
it's
about
early.
leaders needing to learn how to lead, and you obviously
Yeah.
had the 8 captains last year. What are you looking for from that standpoint of things, of teaching guys how to be those forefront leaders?
Yeah, the beautiful thing with our setup now, especially the way the trades and free agency worked out, when you have a guy like Joe in the building, he's done it for a long time. When you have someone like Grady Jarrett, he's done it for a long time. That is an added bonus of bringing those guys in because they can show them how to do it. And I always think it's important that in order to do that and lead, you.
Brian, you're going to have to repost it. Repost it. I can't find it. I'm looking, trying to multitask here. Repost what you put there.
You also have to be taking care of business on the field and still be productive, because I've seen situations where there's older guys who aren't really in their prime, and they're not, they're almost in survival mode, just trying to finish out their career, and it just doesn't hold as much weight. So when there's guys that are actually playing at a high level and they've won a bunch of games and they're addressing certain things, I think it's just weighted heavier, and the guys follow and we'll listen to that.
When you see how,
We'll do one more here on the record, and
Brian, you actually went about addressing the offensive line. When you kind of balance that out as you evaluate DeAndre Swift's season, what do you feel about his play, not only last year, but then going forward?
Yeah, I think one, just with this group, especially when it gels together, I think there's going to be opportunities for him to be at his best. We saw that when he was in Philly, and highly successful. When I go back to the tape, I think there's some certain things like getting to the second level, getting on the linebackers and the safeties, is going to allow him to really be at his best as well. And then I know with EB in that room, when you talk about your landmarks, the details, the important small things of that position, I guarantee you that will be on point, and therefore I believe he'll have a successful season.
All right, so there's the end of Ryan Poles. I don't know if there's anything that's too crazy telling in there, but it gives a general feel for, I think, where the Bears are. And I think they're building something of substance where they've brought in free agency for the last 3 years. And now it's going to be built through the draft. Now you're going to see adding through the draft. And then next year, probably not nearly as much building through free agency. In fact, we built so many contracts, I don't know if you can. So it's going to be interesting. Now, I think Ben Johnson speaks more here about the team and the move forward here, and does a few more telling things about Caleb Williams and some of the positions. So it's interesting to see how Ben Johnson speaks here. Oh, some things to highlight from the league meetings, just real quick. Between those two, the tush push has been pushed off. Tush push has been pushed off. So they needed 24 owners to agree to ban the tush push. And the Packers were the biggest whiny babies. I'll be semi-polite here. They were the biggest whiny babies. Babies is a good word to use instead of being vulgar. About the whole thing. They're saying it's for player safety, and we don't want to have anybody hurt. Wah, wah, wah. Well, not enough people agreed to it, so they're pushing it off till, I think it's July meetings. I think that's the next time the owners. So it's not dead. It's just pushed off. Over time, there was enough support that each team will touch the ball at least once. Even if you get a touchdown to start overtime, the other team will get a chance to tie or win or go ahead. So that is a big change for this upcoming year. It still will be 10 minutes, capped at 10 minutes. The Lions also proposed a proposal that defensive back penalties don't result in an automatic first down, because they were one of the most penalized defensive back groups in the league. So much grabbing and grab-assing and whatever. So that got denied as well. So that was good. I think there's one more too. But it was funny to listen to Matt LaFleur's comments. Like he looks like a fish out of water. He looks like the worst head coach in the NFC North now. And I'm not saying Matt LaFleur's a bad coach. I think he's a good coach, but he looked like he's losing sleep over what's happening in Green Bay. And I love to see it. They went 1-5 in division last year. So did the Bears. And they should have gone 0-6, but we lost on that stupid field goal at the end of the game that was blocked, and it's dumb. But I think the Packers, if they go 0-6 again this year, it's going to be so much fun. Oh, kickoff. That's what it was. Kickoff is moved to the 35-yard line instead of the 30. So good job, Victor. So, all right. So here is Ben Johnson.
Is it
his interview.
to say that this is the most immersed you've ever been in a pre-draft process?
A lot of background noise on this one.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. the way we had done it in Detroit was coordinators and position coaches were very much involved. And it's a similar process here in Chicago. I think Ryan's done a phenomenal job in terms of listening to us. We'll still go over our evals as a group. That's coming up in the near future. But we've been able to sit down, me and him, and I mentioned yesterday that the coordinators were involved in the process as well. It's just preliminary round of some of the top guys and what we thought just off the cuff. And it'll be great to get the position coaches involved as well.
When you describe the opportunity of the 4 picks in the top 75 and what that will allow you to do to make progress towards competing this year.
Yeah, it's a great draft to have those day 2 picks. 39, 41, 72, I think those are great value picks this year. You're going to be able to find some really good players that can be contributors, maybe not day 1, but at some point over the course of the season. And we'll see. We have.
So there's to answer your question. Do you think we'll find 4 starters? Not necessarily, but huge upside where all of them should be starters at some point, maybe not year 1. But really looking forward to those
concerns throughout the roster that we're looking to fill. But we feel really good about how the rosters come together.
Yes, that's one more. No more chain gang. So first down will be viewed from the sky cam and from the side view cams. They will be viewed by the booth officials, not by the on-field officials. So the chain gang is going away. So that was another thing that was decided. Thanks for bringing that up, Bears fan.
Together through free agency.
I'm sorry, does what you did in free agency afford you the ability to kind of go anywhere in the draft?
Yeah, I think so. We've talked about that. We have a lot of flexibility in what we can do right now. And so I think Ryan and I feel really good about the position we're in.
Because you're a big. How did that vision come to be to have those 2 backs? And what was your input in that process?
Yeah, well, if I remember correctly, because free agency starts first, we acquired Montgomery. He had a heck of a start to his career here in Chicago and felt good about his play style and how we wanted to play football there in Detroit, and it really translated well.
Doesn't sound
and
like
then
Genty.
When you get into the draft prospects, we viewed Gibbs as more of a weapon, not necessarily 1A, 1B, but more they could coexist and really complement each other's skill set. And to me, that's how you want to construct a roster from all your skill positions. Is
we'll get to this in just a minute.
5, 6, 4 guys necessarily in the receiver room. You want more of a basketball team where you got the point guard, you got the power forward, you have a wealth of different skill sets that you can look to call upon wherever you're at in the field and with whatever situation arises.
Kind of going off that, how much are you looking at this running back class with, I guess, the variety of skill sets in this year's deep class?
Yeah, it's there's a lot of flavors to be had here. So value day 1, day 2, all the way through day 3, and I think there's going to be a lot of good undrafted prospects as well.
That's a really interesting comment when talking about the running back group. And he's going to say right after this, again, this is my 4th time listening to this. He's going to talk about how Eric Bieniemy is in Hallis Hall, or he's in the offices, and he comes in and says, I like this guy. I like this guy. I like this guy. Like he kind of makes fun of it. But we already have a more of a wide zone type of player. And here's the problem, guys. DeAndre Swift last year, DeAndre Swift is a wide zone running back. We played for the first time in years. Last year, we made it a gap running back scheme, and DeAndre Swift was not built for that. So trying to get him to hit 4 yards in between the tackles, he bounced out a lot when he shouldn't have, but he's a wide zone running back. Well, there's a lot of wide zone running backs in this draft. There's also a really, really solid gap running back to go with it. Now we're going to move back to wide zone. They've already said that. They said the reason we built this offensive line the way we did in the offseason, we want more of a wide zone. Wide zone just means, just for those who aren't super deeply, this is a very basic rundown on it too. You're on your wide zone when you hand the ball off to a running back, he's basically going right for the tackle where the defensive end is, where the defensive end is going to be, and he's going to play off the defensive end. If the defensive end stunts inside and tries to bust inside, or if he goes outside, wide zone, you do opposite of that. And that zone gives you the ability to bust in right off the tackle or bust out right to the outside between the defensive end and the sideline. That's what wide zone refers to, okay? And that's how DeAndre Swift is built. That's what he's built for, is to do that type of thing. Read the defensive end, see how my tackle's holding up. I can either bust inside right off of that, or I can bust outside and I can gain 5-10 yards. That's what you want to get, a good 5-10 yard pickup every time from your running back. Well, the gap running back is when you're hitting the hole. I mean, you're hitting that one gap, that A gap, that B gap, that C, one gap, three gap. You're hitting right there, and you're just going for pounding the rock. Scatterboo, I'm really high on this. Scatterboo this year is the perfect content balance. Hand him the rock off like a fullback. Hand him the ball. Get him to pound 5 yards. Then you can mix it up with wide zone scheme with DeAndre Swift. That's how you fix this team. Next year, my gosh, you guys think Ashton Jeanty is good? Wait till you see Jeremiah Love next year come out in the draft. If you get Scatterboo this year and then Jeremiah Love next year to replace DeAndre Swift or have DeAndre Swift for the last year, and oh my gosh, it's limitless on the. I'm getting sold on this concept of taking Scatterboo this year, taking Jeremiah Love this next year, and even picking up a Kylan James, who, yes, I agree, I'm homering on, and I am a huge fan of because I'm UNLV, but he's probably one of the best undrafted free agent prospects in this draft. Picking up a Kylan James in undrafted free agency as well, and then having Ian Wheeler. There's limitless option. So there's ways to go. Jeremiah Love is Notre Dame's running back, just so you guys, if you guys aren't familiar with him, he'll be coming out in the draft next year, and his stats, he played a third of the stats of Ashton Jeanty, and he was just as effective, just as dynamic, just as special. And I don't know if anybody's not watching college football or if they don't watch a year forward and look at these guys. Jeremiah, so this year is a running back class. Next year is a running back class too. Next year is a very deep running. So this year, you've got your defensive line, you've got your running backs, you've got your trying to think of the other strengths of this class. I know what they all are, but I got to rank them in my head. Next year is going to be more of your quarterback class. I've talked about that for over a year and a half now. The quarterback class that's coming out, quarterback class, running back class, offensive tackle class. So this is going to be next year. And Jeremiah Love is only like the third ranked running back this next year. I mean, there's some beastly running backs coming out this next year. So it's going to be really fun to see how it. So anyways, he talks about the running backs here, and there is no indication they're sold on going running back round 1. They're talking about finding playmakers, and he talks about second round, day 2, day 3, undrafted free agency. So there's no being sold on running backs right here by
this year, particularly at that position. I think they show up each and every year, and so we're really excited. I'll be curious to hear what Eric Bieniemy and he has to say, because I've seen him in the office a few times now, and he'll be like, man, I really like this guy, I really like that guy, and so I know he's passionate about a few of these guys this year.
And because you're an offensive guy, does the offense get a louder voice?
Oh, so those who didn't pay attention the other day, I don't have a direct connection to Eric Bieniemy. Okay, a really good friend of mine is really good friends with Eric Bieniemy. He played on the 1990 Colorado Buffaloes team with him. Just for fun, I said, hey, will you text him and say just ask me for fun. I knew it would get shot down, but I just said, just ask for fun. Who are the Bears taking at running back? And he actually responded, and Eric Bieniemy said to my friend, he said, I honestly don't know yet. So take it for what it's worth. That's not insider information. It was just kind of fun for me to ask the question and probe. But he did respond to him. He said, now take it for what it's worth. He could be hiding his information. They're not going to share that information. But I truly believe, I don't think the Bears know who they're taking at running back yet. I don't think they're honed in and zeroed in on one singular player yet. I don't think that's a done deal. So there's a lot of options, and there's a lot of research to be done now between now and the draft, and they will have top 30 visits. They're still going to get together in their pods. Remember the pods from last year? They'll get together in their pods and discuss different players. But a direct response from Eric Bieniemy was, we don't even know yet. So they haven't decided.
In the draft room, then the defense, will they get their fair share as well?
I love both sides of the ball and special teams. So listen, everyone's going to be heard. Coach Allen, he'll make sure defense is accounted for, and so will Coach Hightower. So we very much value special teams, and we'll make sure that all three phases are we check those boxes.
Ben, when you took the job, you talked about how you were looking forward to working with a mobile quarterback. A lot of people in Detroit took it as a shot at Jared and his lack of mobility. Was that just you having fun with that, or?
It was not a shot at Jared. I've talked to Jared about it. Hey, sometimes your comments get skewed a little bit. That was not my intent. He certainly understands that. It was more directed towards Caleb and what he brings to the table.
Is it strange at all? You were like, I wouldn't use the word God, but beloved in Detroit, and now all of a sudden you're the enemy, so to speak. A lot of people are
Here's what I'll say is I have gone back and forth. My family still lives in Detroit right now, and everybody I've seen face to face has been super supportive and very respectful. And so I certainly appreciate that, and so does my family.
Ben, you mentioned the enemy is one part of the big picture, but how and what has that creative process been like with the whole staff as you guys put together your playbook and your plan? How much fun is it?
Yeah, we're still working towards that end right now. Our first step was to get on the same page terminology-wise, and so we went over a lot of the things that we had as a foundation there in Detroit. We went over a lot of film. Declan's been leading that charge. He's done a great job.
So here was the question from earlier. A lot of people saying we're going to run the same style as offense as they did in Detroit. Realize the talk they've talked about Caleb so far. How much they've talked about Caleb. And even that response he just gave a minute ago where he wasn't disrespecting Jared Goff. He was just excited about Caleb. There's going to obviously be some things that are similar. He's going to play call something similar. They talked about how they played a more compressed offense to be able to spread the sidelines out. Your route tree, I don't know if everybody knows what I'm referring to, but they asked Ben Johnson why he played more compressed, not so many out wide zone or verts, why so many wide receivers not out wide, but more compacted inside, and why he likes the slot receiver more. And he said it opens up the tree more. Because if your guys aren't set there in zones, or if they're not set there in specific spots, you can go in, you can go out, you can go avert, you can do a slant, you can do many different things from those different positions from the inside better. So there's going to be some things he likes to do, and there's going to be some creativity things that are going to be similar. But you got more of a mobile quarterback in Caleb Williams. And he's going to talk here in a second about getting Caleb under center more. That at college, his whole career, he's been more of a shotgun quarterback. But putting him under center gives more of a variety of defenses not to know what he's going to do. You can hand it off. You can do a play action. You can do, all that. It opens up the entire playbook more when you're under center. So defenses can't read it as clearly, and you're going to be able to open it up a little bit more. So I think they're going to put Caleb under center a lot more, just like Jared Goff was a little bit more. But they're going to have so many things at their disposal. And he's going to talk here in a second about DJ Moore and his yak, and Rome Odunze with his contested catch ability, and not having a football team not being like, or being similar to a basketball team where you don't want all guys to be the exact same size, shape, and speed. You want some speedsters, and I think they will pick up a speedster somewhere here at some point here before all is said and done. Isaiah Bond is coming in for a top 30 visit. Who knows what's going to happen there? But we've got a big 6'3", 6'4" guy, Rome Odunze, who can do contested catches. We've got DJ Moore, who, man, they can do so many things to line him up on the slot, line him up outside, just get him the ball, and then he turns into a running back with the ball afterwards. I think Ben Johnson is going to utilize these guys' ability more. Even Cole Kmet, lining him up in the slot sometimes, or Tyler Warren, if we pick up Tyler Warren, putting him in the slot, putting him out wide. Don't forget, these tight ends can be used as wide receivers too. So that could be picking up our wide receiver 3 by Tyler Warren. So there's so many options. So I do think there will be a lot of similarities, but there's going to be a lot of differences too, where he utilizes Caleb's natural abilities, his ability to scramble, to bootleg, to do a more of a, man, I'm not thinking of the right terminology right now, but where he bootlegs outright, gets the whole offensive line swinging with him, using that ability these guys have for run blocking and being more movement able offensive linemen to their ability, and then get things open in the out there. And Caleb can make those types of passes. So I think there's a lot of things to be excited about.
I haven't been able to be present for every little thing, but I know that they've been able to get through all the Detroit stuff, and I'm looking forward to getting back into the building here end of the week and going into the next week when the players get in, even to start talking about how we can evolve the scheme and best fit our players.
To that end, when you get Caleb in next week or whatever the date is when they can start, are there certain elements of his skill set that you're going to have to fine tune or tweak based on what you saw last year? Maybe some undoing that you have to do, or habits that you want to hone differently?
Yeah, I don't know if there's any undoing, but there are some things that we're going to encourage that he looks to do a little bit differently. So, You know, he's been predominantly a shotgun quarterback for most of his high school and college career, and so he's very comfortable there. We're going to work to see the comfort level under center and how much of that applies. We had a lot of success where I was last, that going under center for the run game did translate in play action. Whether that works for us in Chicago, time will tell, right? But there's a lot of ways to skin a cat, and that's the beauty about this coaching staff is we have a lot of different influences from a lot of different systems that we'll be able to bring together a good product.
How much do you think that just having someone who speaks the quarterback language how much can that benefit Caleb as he goes through this process, just even from like the construction of the room to the coaching staff around him?
Yeah, I think you need to be able to see the game as a play caller through the lens of the quarterback and vice versa. He needs to see it through the play caller as well. Why are we calling certain plays? What's the intent of the play? But for me, everything.
And I think that's something really you've heard about the last coaching regime, and you hear about the new one talking about. Caleb is very intrigued in understanding the whys. Ever since the draft, they talked about that. He wants to understand why we're doing this, what's happening with the playbook, what does this lead to, where are we headed. He wants to see the big picture from the beginning. So I think this is where Ben Johnson's going to marry and mesh up with Caleb really well. And he's already talked separate times from this about how he and Caleb have been texting and how Caleb has all during the national championship game. He wanted to know about the Super Bowl. He wanted to know about this, and this. And he's texting him nonstop. And it's not just like buddy talk. It's like, I want to know what's going on here. And what's your thoughts on this? And I have questions. So I think it's going to be a good marriage between these two guys, two very highly intense individuals who want success.
That I do really is to try to set it up within how he sees the game. And so will the rest of the coaching staff as well. Some guys do have quarterback backgrounds, other guys don't. And so we'll take all those opinions into account and see what sticks.
When you finish watching all of Caleb's film, he was open about the sack number, that he takes responsibility for some of those. What are things that you can do as an offense, the coach, with him and with everybody to help bring that number down?
Yeah, it takes a village. I don't know what the number was in terms of seconds that he held onto the ball before releasing it, but we would certainly like to bring that number down. Part of that is how well can we scheme number one or number two in the progression open for him.
Listen to that.
The protection up front can get better. The route runners get
this. It feels like for the first time, like in a really long time, where we have a head coach that knows what he's freaking talking about and knows how to fix the problem that's at hand. Like he understands what was happening. He understands what to do and how to fix it. Like those comments right there just got me like so amped. Like I really believe in him.
We can move the pocket a little bit more. There's a lot of things that we have at our disposal that can help with that process.
When you talk about the players coming in next week, I assume you've thought about that opening kind of speech, message. What do you kind of want to get across to the team the first time you get a chance to talk?
Yeah, listen, it's a different regime. What happened last year was last year. We're moving on. We're moving past that. I haven't totally formulated what that presentation is going to look like quite yet. I tend to like to procrastinate just a little bit. That's where
I want a 1920 football drive on this when he meets the team for the first time. I want to see that. I want to be a fly on the wall. This is where I want Hard Knocks. I want to see this. I want Hard Knocks more this year than last year. They're not going to have that. It's not going to happen. But I want to see that. I want to see the behind the scenes stuff here with this.
The best work tends to come out, so I'll figure that out over the weekend, though.
You talk about how success in the modern NFL is quarterback driven, and that's the driving force of success. What are the most important metrics to you to identify quarterback success?
So the way I understand it right now from our analytics team, the EPA in the passing game is really one of the most.
So this is where he's going to talk about EPA and passing game. And I haven't done enough breakdown on this, guys. It's not really a PFF-centered metric. I do most mine from PFF, and then I've created and adapted my own. Mostly because EPA, and this is expected points added. So when you basically do something better than other teams. So say, for example, gaining 5 yards on 3rd and 5 and getting the first down is more important than getting 5 yards on 2nd and 15 where you're still sitting at 3rd and 10. Okay. It's how much do you add to the game and add to your success ratio. It's basically a success ratio. So I'm going to dive into how I can track EPA a lot better because it's a hard thing to gauge with the limited stats and knowledge that we have. But Ben Johnson goes on to talk about how EPA is such an important part of the game today. It's more important than turnover ratio. And the last regime really just pounded in to Caleb's head. Don't turn the ball over. Let the defense go to work for you. Don't turn the ball over, and it's okay. Well, how many times did we limit ourselves in scoring because we didn't turn the ball over? Then you see at the end of the game, and people say, well, that's garbage time. Well, Caleb drove at least 4 or 5 different comebacks because at the end of the game, you've got to throw those turnovers out the window and say, okay, take some risks and play big for us. Well, that's how you got to play the whole game. I think we all said that last year. Why are we being so effing conservative? Why aren't we driving down the field? Why aren't we playing like we want to win this game? And it was more of, well, let's play conservative. Let's not turn the ball over. We got to make sure we don't put it into tight coverage. We don't want to turn the ball over here because then we'll have to rely on our defense. And I'm mocking a little bit, but it is Eberflus psychology. That's what it was. And it led to, I mean, it was a very defensive-minded psychology. It was not exploiting the real the real strengths of our quarterback, who's generational. You're going to see a whole new Caleb this year. I don't know if the stats are going to be godly, but you're going to see a play style, I think, that's going to fit Bears' future going forward, and it's going to be a lot of fun to see that.
Critical factors in determining wins and losses right now. That's probably changed over the last 5 years or so. I would have said 5 years ago, turnovers, takeaways, that was number one. From what I understand now, that EPA for the passing game has now surpassed that. So whatever team has the higher passing game EPA at the end of the game, they generally win that game. It's over 80% of the time. So it's a huge stat, and that's where we look to how do we help inflate that number, higher completion percentage, more run after catch opportunities. That's not to say we're not going to take our shots down the field and look for big explosive plays, chunks or touchdowns that way, but there's a lot of ways we can get that done.
You mentioned that when you're trying to see the game through Caleb's eyes and him through yours, in the very earliest stages when the doors open for you guys to spend more time together, what do you focus on first? What are the ways that you guys start to build that?
You go back to the basics, and so it's the fundamentals of the quarterback position. What's our footwork going to look like under center, from the shotgun? What are we calling the formations? What's the defensive identification going to look like? So that we're all speaking the same language. We got to get on the same page because it'll be a little bit different for him than what he experienced last year. And if we can mesh together and start speaking the same language, that's when things will really start to take off.
And what kind of coach are the Jets getting in Tanner Extra?
I cut some of these out. You'll see I block this and skip forward.
Can you give us a health update? And from
Braxton
what you've
Jones.
seen on tape, could you envision him playing left tackle in your offense?
I think he's right on track, and so will that mean he's limited in training camp? I would say probably at this point, but I think the progress is right where it needs to be right now.
It's so bizarre to see people take some of these things out of context. They hear him say this about Braxton Jones. The boot is off. He'll be limited in the beginning of training camp, but he'll be back up to speed. People are taking that as in, oh, we got to find a replacement for Braxton Jones. He directly, like both he and Ryan Poles have directly and literally said, we feel really comfortable with Braxton Jones. There's some things we want to improve upon. He was 14th ranked left tackle. Of course, they're going to want to improve some things. They want to see him take the step to be a top 10, top 5 tackle. Sorry, a little heartburn. So it's so funny to see people twisting things out of context. They've clearly made a choice to go with Braxton Jones this year. Does that mean Braxton Jones is secure beyond this year? No, but it doesn't mean we're replacing him day one this year. It's just kind of funny how people work with these things.
And yes, absolutely. Listen, the number one thing, in my opinion, that tackles need to do is pass protect, okay? And so I think he's got the feet to get that done. We're going to challenge him to maybe gain a little bit more weight so that he can anchor a little bit better in pass pro. But everything I've seen so far has shown a phenomenal athlete out there on the edge that we feel like we can work with.
Phenomenal athlete on the edge. They want this run game. I don't think a lot of people give Braxton Jones enough credit for his run pro, like his run blocking. When you get Braxton Jones out there in open field, like he will lay some guys out. And in fact, there was a couple games last year where he did that, and it's fun to watch him. So I think they like Braxton Jones already athleticism and ability to get out in the run game. They just need him to add 15 pounds, to add some base to him. You know, eat those cheeseburgers while you're healing up right now. Get yourself packed up and then get on the freaking sleds. Get on, squats when you get back. Let's build that base up and let's make you a top 5 left tackle instead of, and guys, that's how it works with offensive linemen. They're not all pros year one. They're not all pros year. Some of them are, but sometimes it's this progression like Braxton Jones has been, where he progresses every year. And I think they see that in Braxton Jones. So you've got options. If he doesn't become a top 10, top 5 left tackle this year, you don't get the extension. If you do, you're probably in for a big payday. So there's good options the Bears have at that position.
When you look at some of the numbers from last year, the 68 sacks or the team averaging only 3.5 yards per carry, which of those bothers you more as you look to form and build your new offense with this team?
Listen, we got to protect the quarterback. To me, that's number one. I just talked about how important the passing game metric is in modern football, and so that's a.
So I'm going to get to this, and I'm not just dishing on you, Keith Hall, because several of you are saying similar things. Not great at the bull rush. We're going. I don't see that happening. I don't see us taking a tackle at the top of this draft. I don't. We drafted Karan Amagachi before. We could take one later, but I don't see that happening with the needs we have of a defensive tackle, running back, defensive end, interior offensive line is more important for a backup there. I just don't see that happening. So I'm not dishing on you. I can see tackle later, like a Holland Pierce or even Nelson out of Wisconsin in the 5th round. I can see that happening later. This is just my opinion. Who knows who's right or wrong yet?
And naturally, those two go hand in hand. If you're able to protect, generally you have a good offensive line. If you have a good offensive line, generally you're able to run the ball. The backs have a lot to say with that as well. And so I think those two metrics really do tie together to a degree.
What was it like working with John Morton in 2022? How was he?
Another question about somebody worked with before. We can skip forward on that.
How intrigued you are with the slot position, how the ball Detroit tended
slot position.
That person. Detroit now with St. Brown. I know you guys made a couple of acquisitions from players that could fill that role for you, but it's important to you to get your best player in that spot because the ball tends to line up working so much, so you try to get more.
This is how I feel.
Listen,
too.
I think that's to be determined. It's a little bit different right now. Can DJ play inside? I think he can. Can Rome play inside? I think he can. Both those guys showed those traits last year on tape. To what degree, I don't know yet. We got to hit the grass and see what they're really capable of and what they do well. But I feel really good about the two guys we brought in free agency and what they bring to the table. It's just naturally, whether it was Jarvis Landry or Danny Amendola or St. Brown, the last few years there in Detroit, those guys were really the focal point of the passing game where I've been in the past.
Ben, what's been your evaluation of Tyrique Stevenson?
He's a young player that's still learning. He's still growing. He's still maturing. But you see all the athletic traits and you see the potential. That's always a dangerous word to throw out there. But I'm really encouraged. I've had a good conversation with him on the phone. I know DA has and Al Harris have as well. And so I'm really excited to get him in the building and get our hands on him and work to bring out the best in him.
How much of those conversations were about last year with the Hail Mary?
Such a dumb question.
Very little, very little. I'm just getting to know these guys on a personal level in the off season, and then we'll dive into more football once they get in the building.
Okay, so that's the end of the interview with those two guys. I think Ben Johnson's a little bit more telling. That's why we stopped to break it down a little bit more. I think if anything that you want to take from this video, and then I'm going to jump into the roster as it stands now, go over some of my favorites as we head to the draft 3 weeks from now, and then Carl and I are going to talk about this a little bit more on Thursday. The running back position, I don't think is set in the 1st or 2nd round or even the 3rd round. Like him talking about Eric Bieniemy coming with multiple different guys and him saying day 1, day 2, or day 3, or undrafted free agency. There's so many options for the running back position. But with the gap, interior gap, and outside zone scheme, how we ran last year, how we run this year, how we've run in the past, I think it's just so open. I think Cam Scadaboo would be such a need. I really like Caleb Johnson the most in this draft too. And he would be, I mean, he ran a lot of outside zone as well, though, but he's a powerhouse that can go up the middle. There's going to be a lot of options open to the Bears. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really excited to see what the Bears do moving forward from here. All the options are on the table though. So like we talked about multiple times, there's no one set way. So we're going to run through this stuff real quick, and then I'm going to get to who my favorites are right now as we head to the draft 3 weeks from now. And there, I do believe with what he said about running backs and undrafted free agency, I like this. We can also sign a tackle that is an undrafted free agent. I think there's going to be a solid class of undrafted free agents this year that aren't going to be your contributors right away, but that would be more developmental, that will be more impactful than years prior. And we found some decent ones in undrafted free agency. There's going to be some good linebackers. There's going to be some good safeties. There's going to be some good alignment. Excuse me, guys. I apologize. There's going to be some good options in this draft. So just as a review, here's the combine top 60 visits the Bears hosted. 46 of them listed here. Some really good options for the Bears. You can see kind of separated defensive tackles, defensive ends, safeties, tight ends, running backs, and then I go over to cornerbacks, wide receivers, offensive tackles, offensive linemen, interior offensive linemen, and then all the way down to linebackers at the very bottom. Excuse me. Appreciate that, Brian Gilmore. Hit the like button if you guys don't mind. If you like what you're seeing, if you're having a good time. I'm going to get to my picks here in just a minute. And then we'll go over. Now, there is some discrepancy here on the scheduled top 30 visits. Some will say the 2 tight ends are only individual pro day workouts. Those 2 tight ends are not top 30 visits. We heard from Tyler Warren's mouth as himself and from Mason Taylor's mouth that they're meeting with the Bears as we get into top 30 visit time. So take this with a grain of salt, but these are the 9 that I have confirmed. Some are saying that Tyler Warren and Mason Taylor, the 2 tight ends, will be individual workouts at their facilities, though. So take it with a grain of salt. That's all I'm going to say here. But you've got Mason Taylor, Josh Connerly, Ashton Genty, Tyler Warren, Will Campbell, Nick Martin, Rashard Smith, Dylan Fairchild, and Isaiah Bond. So a wide variety of guys, and those numbers above their heads are consensus kind of where they're expected to be taken in this draft. So Mason Taylor at 55, Josh Connerly at 32, Ashton Genty at 7, Tyler Warren at 11, Will Campbell at 10, Nick Martin, I said Martini before, that's funny, Martin at 179, Rashard Smith at 153, Dylan Fairchild at 115, and Isaiah Bond at 67. So a wide variety of places where the Bears could be taking these different players. All right, now let's get into where the team needs stand according to Adam. So on the right, you'll see first, second, third, fifth rounders. Those are kind of our more premium. First, second, third are more of our premium picks. The 6th round pick is gone. We traded that away. So I should really just remove it altogether now because it's long past that point. I've just had this same graphic for a while now. But we need running back, we need linebacker, we need tight end 2, we need offensive tackle, more of a right tackle, left guard, safety, cornerback, nose tackle, and defensive end. So that's kind of where we sit with our needs. They don't necessarily all have to be done through the draft. I'm going to go through real quickly how our depth chart looks for all these. You can see we need a running back there. You got Roschon Johnson, DeAndre Swift, Ian Wheeler, Travis Homer. And as we move to the offensive line, you got Braxton Jones, Joe Tooney, Drew Dahlman, Jonah Jackson, Darnell Wright. Behind them, you got Karan Amagaji, Bill Murray. I see we need someone as a real more immediate impact guy ahead of Bill Murray. And then you can see I have the 90-man camp guys down below there. And I do think Ricky Stromberg and Doug Kramer will be fighting for that backup center position. With Ryan Bates, they're able to fill in as well. Because we signed Drew Dahlman, I don't think it's as big of an impact, important thing for us to get a backup center. Drew Dahlman did miss some time last year, but Ryan Bates can be an emergency center. It's possible we sign one. If you guys missed my video earlier on Dylan Fairchild, I think all those Georgia interior offensive linemen are severely undervalued. I think they're all high prospects. You got Dylan Fairchild, you've got Tate Ratledge, and you've got Jared Wilson. I would love to take a couple of those guys and develop them behind. We'll see, though. We don't have a backup right tackle at this point. You can see all the X's at the bottom right. Those means those guys have signed with other teams. So Coleman Shelton, Matt Pryor, Jake Curahan, Tevin Jenkins, and Larry Borum are all gone from options for this team moving forward. Wide receiver room, I think, is coming together really well. Tight ends. Cole Kmet, we will draft a tight end for sure. Durham Smythe, tight end 3. I don't know why some people are saying he's a tight end 2. There's no shot we're going with tight end 2 of Durham Smythe. He was brought in for depth. He's Mercedes Lewis's replacement. Good blocking tight end. Be used sparingly on special teams. Cole Kmet, still tight end 1. I would still expect, even if we draft Tyler Warren, Cole Kmet will be tight end 1 as a new tight end develops in the league. But you'll see a lot of 12 personnel, a lot of wild things with Tyler Warren if we do go with Tyler Warren. I'm not saying we're not drafting a wide receiver. I'm just saying I don't think it's as much as a necessary need, but we will add a couple wide receivers before we get to 90-man camp. Before we get to camp, there will be more wide receivers added. Last year we had 10 of them. Right now on the roster we have 8. I wouldn't be shocked if we draft one, take one in undrafted free agency. Is still signed Colin Johnson. He's still a free agent. Still signed Simba Webster. Maybe that's that ship has sailed. We know Colin Johnson's number has been taken. it was either Devin Duvernay or Olamide Zaccheaus. They took his number 80. So they've taken him. But I do think Rome and DJ Moore will be the highlight of this year. They will be the central focus and who this team revolves around this year. So then we shift to the defensive line of the ball, side of the ball. Jacob Martin's now been signed. I'll get to that in just a minute. But you got Montez Sweat, Grady Jarrett, Jervon Dexter, Dio Odengbo, Andrew Billings, Austin Booker. And then, you know, behind that, I think are the guys that aren't even necessarily set to make the roster. We definitely need some help there at defensive tackle, defensive end, especially for the future moving forward. I'm not saying 3-tech is necessarily going to be how we draft. I would see more of Jervon Dexter being rotating with Grady Jarrett, and Kenneth Grant would be phenomenal at nose tackle with Andrew Billings there. And then defensive end, we'll see what happens, but we definitely need some more depth there as well. And then we get to the linebacker, nickelback room. Need another linebacker as well, even though we've signed Swayze Bozeman, Patrick Swayze. I always say that in my head. And Amen Ogbongbomia. We're definitely going to bring in some more linebackers as well for camp. And then cornerback room. After we lost Jalen Jones, there's definitely a need for another cornerback. Like I said before, though, Terrell Smith to me is cornerback 2 with the man coverage we'll be running. That's just how I see it. Tyreek Stevenson may not be happy about it, but it's kind of where I just see the chips falling this year. So here's the guys that were with the Bears this last year who have signed elsewhere. The only one that really hurts to me, I like Jack Sanborn. I don't know why we didn't work to retain him. That one kind of hurt me a little bit. I like Jacob Martin. I like Jalen Jones. That one kind of hurt too, but you can see Coleman Shelton went to the Rams. Khalil Herbert, he was traded before, but still gone from this last year. To the Colts, Jack Sanborn with the Cowboys, Byron Cowart with the Jets, Matt Pryor with the Eagles now, Darrell Taylor with the Texans, Darrington Evans with the Bills. That really happened at the end of last year as well. Jake Curhan with the Cardinals. So is Jalen Jones. Jacob Martin now this last week has gone to the not Redskins. What do they call them now? I still can't get it out of my head. It's the Redskins. Commanders. To the Commanders. Tevin Jenkins and DeAndre Carter are both on the Browns, and Larry Borum is to the Dolphins. So, all right, let's get into my draft wish list. I wanted to keep this closer to an hour and a half. Let's see here. What's going on? All right. I just got to see what I've missed here for the last minute. I've gone through that. Real quick. I do love the Duvernay signing as well. You know what? Our offensive line was not terrible last year. Our backups were, and we still haven't fixed that. So I do think we need to really hit a couple of hits here in the draft. But I do think more than anything, just like you say here, last year's coaching staff, I think Dan Rocher will help a lot with that. Yeah, Equanimeous St. Brown is still available. I'm not opposed to that. Good blocking. Wide receiver, I'm open to that as well. I do like Equanimeous St. Brown. I just don't think he has a guarantee to make the 53-man roster. So I don't know if he loves the idea, but he did lobby for his brother to get in touch with Ben Johnson and get him back on the Bears. So that'd be interesting to see if that comes to fruition. I like Walter Nolan too. All right, let's see. Anything else I missed here? I like Landon Jackson. Oh, good one. Are any comp picks coming our way? It will depend solely on Keenan Allen, how much Keenan Allen signs for. With Tevin Jenkins signing for $3 million, it's not likely. It's not likely we're going to be getting any comp picks. So that did not help us at all. Dennis Allen didn't want Sanborn. That's a good view take on it. It's probably the most realistic thing. All right, so here's my draft wish list. And I'm going to go in tiers. Tier 1, I'm going to be elated. This is what you'll see on draft day. If these things happen, I'll be elated. Tier 2, I get it. Tier 3, I won't. I put tier 1 for all those. Just know it's tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. That's what I meant to do. And I'm not going to go change it right now mid-show. So let's go. Pick 10. This is how I feel about the draft 3 weeks before it. This is how I feel. And I'm going off on that right side there, on the right side, way over there, kind of the consensus of where they expect the draft picks to be taken. Where they expect these guys to be taken. It's kind of funny. Shedeur Sanders does not have a projection of which team will take him. I do think it's going to be a prime spot where you could see the Steelers in an opportunity to trade up for him. I think it really is becoming more realistic every single day. So Cam Ward is consensus projected to the Titans, Abdul Carter to the Browns, Travis Hunter to the Giants, Mason Graham to the Jaguars, Ashton Jeanty to the Raiders, Armand Membu to the Jets, and that's torn. Armand Membu and Tyler Warren are really torn there between the two of them. Will Campbell, number 4, to the Patriots, Tatoria McMillan to the Cowboys. So these are kind of the consensus through 10. And if it lines up this way, I am elated if we pick Tyler Warren after the way they've talked about them and what they can use. The same way, it might feel like it's an overdraft, might feel like it's an under. I don't know. However you feel, I do like the way they've talked about him and the vision they have for that. And Kenneth Grant has been my guy for the last long while. I see the vision of Kenneth Grant. And those who don't know, I've talked about this several times. If you're stuck in the Bears bubble, sometimes you get stuck looking at your draft simulators and you say, well, it says that Kenneth Grant's going to be taken around 15 to 16. And if you look at one of them, PFN maybe, one of them has him going all the way to 39. And then there's some stupid analyst out there, I don't know which one, who just does not make a good name for himself by saying he'll be picked at 39 to the Bears. There's no shot in hell Kenneth Grant is making it out of the first round. I'll put money, I'll stake my house on that. I'll stake my firstborn child on that Kenneth Grant will not make it out of the first round. He's a special defensive tackle. And those who are stuck in the Bears bubble might not see it as much. The Niners are really sold on Kenneth Grant. Their fan base is all in on Kenneth Grant. They like Kenneth Grant a lot, and there's a lot to like about Kenneth Grant. So these three things I would be elated about: Tyler Warren, Kenneth Grant, or a trade back. All three of those things I will be excited because of what it means for the Bears. Tier 2, which I know it says tier 1. I'm sorry, guys. I can't go mid-show and change where that says tier 1 to tier 2. I would get it. I don't necessarily love it because the defensive ends in this class, to me, they really are where they talk about it being level from 10 to 60. There's so many defensive ends right in the middle here where they would all be the same to me. If you're talking James Pierce, Mike Green, Jack Sawyer, Princely Umanmielen, Landon Jackson, and on and on and on. There's a bunch of them. They would all be the same to me where I would not love them being taken at 10, but I would be very excited for any one of them at 39. So I would get it because we need another rotational defensive end. So I would get it at 10. I wouldn't love it. And then I won't agree with any running back at 10. I won't agree with or any offensive lineman because we have a set offensive line and there's so many good options to take developmental or backup guys on the offensive line at 10. So agreed. Would you take Grant over Graham? No, Mason Graham would be my number one, but I don't see him making it to 10. And I've said this several times. I see it as a 1-2 though, and I do think these guys worked in tandem really well. I do like Mason Graham gets more penetration, and he does just as good a job against the run. So they're both got their advantages, and Kenneth Grant is just a massive human being who can. He's quick for his size, guys. I mean, he's very quick for his size, and he can move and adjust on the fly too. He can shed guys off him fast. I think he took more double teams than Mason Graham this last year, and it led to success. But the two of them worked really well together. I can see Mason Graham or Kenneth Grant working really well with Grady Jarrett, with Gervon Dexter. Either one of them, I think, would improve this roster dramatically. I do like if Princely's there in the second round, take him. All right, let's see. All right, so let's go here to pick 39. All right, so now my pick 39 wish list. I'd be elated if we take a high prospect that fell, regardless of who it is. I'm talking anyone that falls to 39 and we snag them. If that's Nick Emanwari, I would be freaking elated with that. If it's I see Ariante Ersery as like seriously top 30 in this draft. Now, this is according to Mock Draft Database. This is their top, so I just kind of took a snapshot of 36 through 44 here. But if Ariante Ersery, guys, his comp is Trey Smith. So if you guys fell in love with Trey Smith and the possibility of the Bears trading for Trey Smith, Ariante Ersery, and if you watch his tape, shifting him from tackle to guard, and he could even kick out to tackle in an emergency if something's wrong. You know, if Braxton's injured or Cron's injured and they need to shift Ariante Ersery out there, he's 34-inch arms, so it's not, I mean, we're still in good range. He'd be okay. I would love for us to take Ariante Ersery if he fell to us. I don't see that happening. Any of these other prospects, Nick Scourton, they have him at 37, but you can see they have him projected to Washington at 29. If Nick Scourton fell, I'd be very high with that. And then defensive end at 39, this is where I think the Bears should take a defensive end. This is where they should go. I get it if we take a running back, linebacker, or interior offensive line. I get it. I don't love it. I'm not elated like I would be for high prospect that fell or defensive end, but I would get it. I won't agree with an offensive tackle or a cornerback or anything else at pick number 39. All right. We go to pick 41, and it's basically the same as 39 because it's 2 picks apart. But at pick 41, I would be elated because we took our pick at 39. If we traded back to garner some more value and took advantage of this class here, we've taken our main priority at 39. Then we can take 41 and trade back a little bit. I don't see it happen because I think someone's going to fall still. So still high prospect that fell would be another one. And then this is where I would be okay with us starting to take a running back. If there's someone like Caleb Johnson or Cam Scadaboo that you don't think is going to be available at 72, or if we didn't trade back and we didn't get another pick in there, this is where I'm okay taking a running back, and I feel really good about running back here at 41, and I think it would help impact this team long-term. I don't think it's necessary. I don't think it's required to take one here. We can still get a Bashal Tutton. We can still get a DJ Giddens. We still get one of these guys later in the 3rd or 4th round or later, but it's possible here to really take the running back. I get it if we take tight end here. This is assuming we don't take Tyler Warren earlier. I think it's still a little bit early for these top tight ends, Elijah Arroyo, Mason Taylor, but I would get it if they want to snag the tight end they want and they didn't get Tyler Warren. I would get it if they took him here at 41, or interior offensive line or offensive tackle. We're getting into our 3rd pick. We're filling needs. We're taking best player available. I get it. I won't agree. Now, I get it. I get it, and I won't agree at offensive tackle. If we reach for an offensive tackle, that's what I'm saying I won't agree with, because we've already got Braxton Jones and Karan Amagaji. So if they reach for that offensive tackle, I won't understand if we reach for it, but I will get it if we take one that kind of fell, like a Josh Connerly Jr., if we took him in this range, and then cornerback and anything else. So, all right. And then as we get to 72, end of round 3. So by the end of round 3, because it's hard to project what's going to happen, this is how I would be elated. If we feel that defensive tackle, defensive end, tight end, running back, and guard positions, if we fill all of those positions, I will be elated. And I just put a hypothetical example here. If we took Kenneth Grant, if we took Landon Jackson, if we took Tate Ratledge, if we took Mason Taylor, and we took Cam Scadaboo somehow, I will be elated. If those are our 5 draft picks, if we somehow traded down and got those 5 players, that is my ideal wish list at this point. This is what I'm hoping for. I will get it if we took best player available, only took 4 picks, and we took the best 4 players available. We don't have a backup right tackle right now, just so you guys know. We don't have one. And then I won't agree if we haven't filled at least 4 out of these 5 positions here. So you see up high, defensive tackle, defensive end, tight end, running back, and guard. If we haven't filled at least 4 out of those 5, so if we've only filled 3 of those with those premium positions here by the end of round 3, if we've only filled 3 of those, I won't agree. I won't be super hyped about this draft. So that's kind of where I stand with the draft at this point. So here's kind of my just kind of snip. I was trying to keep it to 25, okay, but I couldn't do it. If you count these up, I think there's like 28 or 29. So my favorite prospects, if you just take the consensus big boards, these are my favorite prospects right now that I'm really high on in this draft. You can see starting on the left side, 1st round. Let me take a drink real quick. Mason Graham at 5, Tyler Warren at 10, Kenneth Grant 22, Nick Amanwari, James Pierce, Josh Simmons, Tyler Booker, Walter Nolan. Those are some of my favorite prospects that I've been following and I really like. At 37 on Nick Scourton, Ariante Ursery, Landon Jackson, Travion Henderson, Quinshaw Judkins, Xavier Watts, Alfred Collins, Mason Taylor, Princely Uman Mielen, Jonas Savania, Caleb Johnson, Cam Scadaboo, Wyatt Milam, Jordan Birch, Tate Ratledge, Jared Wilson, Andrew Makuba, Kevin Winston, Chris Paul, Jared Ivey, and Lathan Ransom. And that's not necessarily in any particular order. I was just trying to take 25-ish prospects in the top 100. Now, there's others beyond this. There's a lot more that I really like, too. There's a lot more that I like beyond 100. We'll get to that. I'm going to do a whole video on my day 3 prospects, on my undrafted free agent prospects. I'm going to get those to you guys before the draft. So I'm going to get that. But these are some of my favorite prospects that I would like the Bears to draft. And on draft day, these will be the ones that I'm kind of honed in right now, 3 weeks before the draft. These are the ones that I'm like, okay, if the Bears can come away with some of these players, I'm going to be really excited to be rooting for them next year. And I'm going to be freaking stoked. So Kenneth Grant, Tyler Warren are my ideal right now in the first round. So this is just, according to Adam, what I think would be fun to watch and fun to see. So, all right, we're rounding up on an hour and a half here. I do appreciate you guys tuning in. 175 right now in the chat. So it's been a good show. You guys are always phenomenal to be a part of this with. I do appreciate you guys going through the owners meeting, working through the interviews that were done and everything that was a part of that. I appreciate you guys in the chat. Haven't finished looking at all the comments here. Backup right tackle. Some of you don't love Scadaboo. Go back and watch what I said about gap and wide zone running backs. I think some people might have learned some things from that, what wide zone and what gap mean and what this team really needs. I think we've really got something. We have something in DeAndre Swift, and the way we're going to shift this and the way we're going to get a power back in here too, Caleb Johnson, Cam Scadaboo, that's going to help a lot. So Keith Hall, I appreciate that. Appreciate every one of you guys tuning in. I'm not going to go through and highlight everyone. It's been a long show. It's been a good show. I appreciate every one of you being a part of it. So thank you for tuning in. Thanks for being a part of this. We'll have more to come Thursday at least. I'm going to do a prospect profile tomorrow, and then we'll have Carl here for Thursday's show. So with that, I appreciate you guys tuning in. Till next time, the Bears and Bears.